Hi, everybody. Welcome to our channel again, our Scientology Stories, Peeling the Onion. My name is Mark Fisher, and we have a very special guest today that we're going to introduce to you shortly. But first, I'd like to introduce my co-host, Janis Grady. Hi, Janis. How are you doing today?
Hi, Mark. Good day, everybody.
Yeah. Let us know in the chat where you're from and where you're watching from. This is a live stream, okay? We've got a guest that we're going to talk to for a little bit, and we've got some slides that we're going to show you. And we are going to have a giveaway and also live question and answers. We'll answer any questions you have in the chat. Just please make sure that when you ask a question in the chat, just write the word question before it. It makes it easier to spot in the chat so we don't miss it. And of course, if you want to super chat us, super sticker us, please, we appreciate the donations, anything you want to do. But we're going to answer everybody's questions, so you don't have anything to worry about. I see people in here where Kansas City, Missouri, Vermont. Do you see any more, Janis?
Yeah, we've got Scotland.
Scotland?
Yep, and Bakersfield, California.
We want to welcome everybody. If you're, getting here just now, don't worry, you're not missing anything. We're about to start here. We've got Denmark in the house now, North Carolina mountains, Kansas, and all these different places. We appreciate all you guys viewing our show. Okay. Anyway, first thing we're going to do, Janis, we're going to start off with our onion peeling news of the week. Okay.
Right, Mark.
Yep. That's that was done by who made our onion? Brooke, right?
Brooke, yes, Brooke did it.
Last time I said Bonnie, and that was wrong, and that was my mistake. I couldn't think. I haven't seen your moment. So anyway, that's our peeled onion. It says SPTV on the inside of it, and this is our onion peeling news of the week. Okay, Kelly Copter's in the house. Hi, Kelly. Nice to see you here. And we've got a lot of other people that are here that are regulars, and we appreciate that. Okay, here's our first slide. Last Saturday, we did a live stream with Karen Delacarriere, and I just wanted to mention it because it is actually the most viewed video we've ever had on our channel. We've had over 11,500 views in just 7 days, and she was really popular as far as her subject matter, and we were talking about Pat Broker and all that. So if you haven't seen that, it's still available on our channel, and you can watch it and enjoy it. And part of that, Janis, is what, we showed pictures of you and your dogs, right? And then who's this here?
That's me with Karen and her dogs.
Do you know her dogs' names?
Stefan Stefan's the one I have a good connection with, and we go for walks and things, and I always forget the other ones.
Uh-huh.
I haven't seen them in a couple of years.
What kind of dogs are they? Are they Borzois?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what they are.
Okay, so we wanted to catch people up on that because we had this picture, but we didn't have time to show it. All right. And then this next picture here, we did a interview again, a live Q&A on Thursday about Scientology Anonymous and the internet with Mitch Brisker. And this was also a very popular video. He discussed Scientology's reaction to the anonymous protests, because he was one of the main people that was involved with David Miscavige in working out the strategy in order to, fight back against Anonymous at the time. That's available on our channel too. This is a new video that we have coming out on Tuesday called St. Hill and the Sea Project. And we have a special guest, Neville Chamberlain. And Janis, why don't you tell everybody who Neville is?
Yeah, he's not the politician from England that's long past dead. Neville is the first Sea Project member I ever met back in 1967 when he came back from Las Palmas to St. Hill on a project. And my mom had asked him to look up us kids and give us her love. And that's when I first met Neville. And we've remained good friends ever since. And his mother got into Scientology when he was 7 years old in 1954. So he has a lot of history from London, from St. Hill, from the Sea Project days. And this one here, we kind of cover that period. And we've still got probably 2 more interviews to do with him, doing more of the Sea Project and it changing to the Sea Organization. And then we'll also do one on the liability cruise in 1968.
He also, Janice, he knew the Miscavige family when they came to St. Hill, right? We talked
Oh, yeah, he knew them very well.
Yeah. So
Yes,
we
and
covered
he
that as
actually
well.
stayed with them in Philly when he went there to visit.
That's right. Anyway, so this will be coming out on Tuesday. It's not a live stream. It's just going to be a video interview with him, and there's photographs there that you've not seen before. So anyway, tune in on Tuesday for that project there. And anyone need some fresh eggs? Janice, who's that?
That's me with my chickens. I have 4 chickens I keep at my sister's ranch. And so I get fresh eggs throughout the whole week. And sometimes I have so many, I'm like, who needs eggs?
Yeah, you end up giving them away. I mean, some of our friends come over and get your extra eggs, don't they?
Yeah, I should set up a little stand on the street sometime and just sell eggs.
Do you have names for the chickens in those photos?
Yeah, well, Digger is the one on the right. And that other one is Henrietta. Henrietta became Henry when we found out he wasn't a girl and turned out to be a rooster.
Well, that's good. He's minding the hen then for you, or the hen house. For you,
exactly.
Right? Okay, great. And then here, people ask about Janice's cat. That's Janis and McLovin, your cat, right, Janice?
Yes, and he's about 15 years old now. And he's the king of the house, puts the dogs in their place. Exactly. And I'll have to do a picture of him on the couch with the dogs on either side.
Okay, great. And next, we want to introduce here our special guest today. You all know her as Claire Headley, and she's been a dear friend of ours for quite some time. We met her after she left the Sea York, because we left before they got to the international base. We left about a year before she did. But without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you everybody to Claire Headley. Hi, Claire.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. Good to see you as always.
We're really happy to have you here, Claire. Claire and Mark have been a tremendous inspiration for us in terms of starting up our own YouTube channel. And Claire has always been our go-to whenever we have questions of things that we want to know what we should do and how to do it and all that. And she's been a big help. Right, Janice?
Very, very helpful.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I appreciate the work you guys are doing, and I appreciate the many voices that have sprung up of late. Exactly. I don't know about you guys. I've seen a significant increase in the drama factor, we'll call it. So must mean we're doing something right?
Yeah, I was hearing about that yesterday.
Holy moly.
Well, it's funny. It's funny. Somebody quoted today, I think it was on Aaron interviewed Mitch Brisker again yesterday somewhere, where Miscavige's response was some L. Ron Hubbard policy that, if there's lots of noise out there, that means that you're doing something right.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Well, Mitch is in the chat.
Oh, nice.
Oh, okay. Hi, Mitch.
I saw Aaron is here too, and of course the beautiful and amazingly talented Kelly Copter.
Yeah.
And Marilyn and Goldie.
That's right. We appreciate everything they do for us too. And Aaron, obviously, he also was a big inspiration for us as well. He got interviewed Janis, and that's how we found out, hey, how do you do this thing? And then we talked to Mark and Claire as well, and all of them have helped us tremendously. We're over 5,500 subscribers, and we've had over 120,000 views now, and it's been just since April 19th. So it's grown very quickly. And we do something different than other people. We do a lot of historical information from the 60s, 70s, 80s, because we weren't there in the 90s, 2000s, and all that. We saw Miscavige up front, and when we were there in the early days when he really started to go off the rails and really started abusing people, and that's when we went, I'm out of here. We're gone.
Yep. We weren't going to take it.
Yep, you're the lucky ones.
Yeah, unfortunately, yeah.
Yeah, Dan Kuhn said we left in the good old days.
If you could call it that, I don't know.
Exactly.
Mitch Brisker asked, which did you get first, the chicken or the eggs, Shannon?
I got the chickens first.
Nice.
And then I had to wait about 6 months before I got eggs.
Oh, wow. That's a long wait time there.
Yeah.
I love the story about Henrietta the rooster. That's amazing.
Yep.
Exactly. Well,
He's
anyway,
big and beautiful.
Henrietta is the first chicken that needs one of those, identifies as he, his, you know.
Oh yeah, what's the pronoun for the chicken? Yeah.
Yes, he identifies as a rooster.
Yeah, right.
That's right. Anyway,
awesome.
Claire, I don't know if you remember this, but this was the first time that I met you and Mark physically. You know, we've been in touch communication-wise, but this was during the anonymous protests in 2008, and this is in front of the Hollywood Guarantee Building. I think it was like the second anonymous protest. I came out to LA, and I think you guys did too, right?
Yes, I think this was actually, I know the stroller right there is my middle son when he was probably about 2 months old. So I would say it was probably April, maybe even March or April, but he was a little guy.
Is that your first son on Mark's shoulders?
Yes.
Boy, time flies.
Oh my goodness. I know that guy on Mark's shoulders is going to be a senior this August. I can't believe it.
That's amazing. Does
I'm
he know
in
what he wants
therapy.
to do?
I'm in therapy. I'm just kidding.
Does he know what he wants to do yet? Is he going to go to college or is he?
He's decided he's going to work with Mark. He's actually with Mark right now doing an installation of a space camp. He's doing amazing. They're in Boston. So.
Well, and also I know, I don't hope you don't mind me saying this, but you actually have had your kids. They had their own business for a while, right? Vending machines.
They did.
And things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. They were, let's see, that was started when they were 12 and 10. And one spring break, they were at our local rec center and they saw this guy loading in all the stocking all the vending machines.
Yeah.
And they came home that day and they were like, Mom, Dad, we've decided we want to start our own business. And we're like, wow, that's amazing. What's that? And they're like, vending machines. And we were like, great. And they had been selling fidget spinners. So they had a significant savings built up already.
Yeah.
So they purchased the first machine and they pitched it to their school. And by the end of it, they had, I think, 9 vending machines. My middle son had designed a really cool logo and it was awesome. It was a going concern, and then COVID hit, and then they sold all the machines, but they did amazing.
Where did they put the machines? In the schools or where?
In schools and in local businesses, and kind of all around
And you
local
had to do
town.
all the driving.
Of course.
I hope they paid for the gas.
Oh yeah, we figured it out. It was okay, but they did really, really well, and it was a great experience. Like they did all the bank deposits, they did everything, and our local bank was like, "This is amazing! You guys are teaching your kids such great skills," and we're like, "This was their idea. We're just here to support them, do what they want to do."
That's great. And Mark at a young age was like an entrepreneur. I remember reading in his book about he was selling gliders that did loop-de-loops at the mall, and he made a ton of money, right?
Yeah, he traveled all over the country when he was like 14.
That's amazing. Yeah. Well, that's great that your son, I mean, look, there's nothing better than being in business for yourself. I mean, if you've got that entrepreneurial spirit, you can make a lot of money and you don't have anybody to answer to except yourself and Uncle Sam for the IRS.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. It's less, more work, less drama, more, just works out all around. It's good. If you can make it work, it's amazing. Yeah. And Mark and I are obviously, we each have our own small businesses. And so we work really hard, but hey, we built a life from nothing. So I'm very, very grateful.
That's great.
That's the same as us.
Yes.
Built from nothing, barefoot and pregnant.
Yeah, I wasn't pregnant right when I got out, but I got pregnant, probably within 4 or 5 months. So
that's
I was
great.
like,
Yeah, I was pregnant when I left.
Yes, of course.
Well, I wanted to mention Claire's got this amazing series, Where is Shelly, that Janis and I have both been interviewed for, and so have so many others. I wanted to mention, though, this is your latest one here that you just did where Mark interviewed you. And if you
Yes.
all haven't seen this video, it is must see on their channel on Blown for Good. It's episode 8, Where is Shelly? And it's Mark acting as the interviewing Claire. And Claire, I was flabbergasted. My jaw hit the ground, and I've heard a lot of stuff several times watching this video, because you were saying things, information I'd never heard before.
Yeah.
Really amazing.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I know I've learned so much. Janis and I just recorded part 2 of Janis for the series, and we have a lot of great material coming up. I've just honestly learned so much about Shelly's life, who she is, and I don't know where this series is going to lead, but you never know. I'm going to keep going.
We did have fun doing that yesterday.
That was a lot of fun. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I had to, my biggest comment or biggest thing that really I reacted to is, I mean, I had heard that, they put in, cameras in auditing rooms after we left and all that, but I didn't know that they had them set up. And did you say that RTC was listening next door when Lisa Marie Presley was being audited or sec checked or whatever?
Yes.
They actually were sitting there listening next door.
Yep. Live.
That blew my mind. And then were the reports then going up to Miscavige or whoever was wanted the information?
Yep. Shelly would call into that next door office periodically to get updates and reports as to what was happening. And, my role was just examiner for Lisa Marie. So in other words, simple terms, at the end of each counseling session, I had to go into that room and she would hold the cans and I would look at the needle on the lie detector and say, "Thank you, your needle is floating," or whatever. But it was funny. I ran into Lisa Marie after that.
Yeah.
When I was in Clearwater, Florida, in 1996, when I was there training to be a religious technology center representative. And I got in the elevator and she was there and she looked at me and she's like, "Oh, hey, you're the examiner." I'm like, "Oh, she remembers me. Hey."
That's wild.
Kind of funny.
To be honest with you, I don't know why any celebrity, let alone any Scientologist, would ever pick up the cans and think that anything was private. I mean, we knew there was knowledge reports written up when you were being sec checked and all that, but that's a whole nother ballgame when you've got video and audio of the person actually saying the things that they're confessing to. And I don't know who would ever pick up the cans. It's just crazy.
Yeah.
I know.
And then you told the story too that Tom Cruise, he goes, "I don't want to be on camera." So then they just moved him to another room where there was a hidden camera behind a framed photograph, right? And they videotaped him anyway.
Yeah, and actually, you just reminded me, Marty Rathbun was his counselor at the time, and Marty was actually kind of fighting Shelly on it, like, "Hey, if he's saying he doesn't want to be recorded, we should honor that." And it was like, "Nope, he's getting recorded."
You know what's amazing is when Scientology was banned in Victoria in 1965, one of the reasons was because they were gathering blackmail material on people in their PC folders. And this just takes it a whole nother level.
Yes, it definitely does.
Yeah, and then Claire, you weren't around for this, and maybe this happened after we left, but in 1982, 83, when the International Finance Police were set up with Don Larson and Wendell Reynolds, they started at Author Services, David Miscavige. They would put people on the cans, like for sec checks, and then the executives would stand behind the auditor and yell questions at the person who's basically there to confess, yelling at them to get them to confess their crimes. And meanwhile, the auditor's sitting there, having to, read the meter and all that stuff. I mean, it's completely out tech. It's completely crazy.
Yeah.
And we had a term for it, was a gang B sec check. That's what they were, and they were gone like within 6 months. They weren't doing them anymore. Janis, did you have experience with that too?
Oh, I got gang sec checked.
Yeah.
So you reminded me that the later version of that was that they had this, gosh, I can't remember what they called it, but they had a system. So they took it. So this was in, let's see, late 90s, early 2000s. they equipped the auditing rooms so that they not only had cameras, but the auditor would have an earbud like what we have right now.
Yeah.
And somebody in the listening room could talk to the auditor while they were auditing, which was really confusing. Oh my gosh, you had to really kind of hold it together. But sometimes the volume would go out of whack, so the person could literally hear what was being said to you in your ear as you're auditing them or as you're interrogating them or whatever it was.
It's really crazy. Look, L. Ron Hubbard has a lot of faults and all that. He would literally take David Miscavige and the people that were doing this and, hang them upside down and kick them out. I mean, it's so out tech, which means out technology. It's not the way that auditing and processing is supposed to be done. And when those group sec checking, that fell out of use like within 6-7 months because somebody put their foot down and said, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Very degrading. It actually made me, that was one of the first times when I started having real doubts about what I was doing, because when I heard that, I didn't see it, but when I heard that, I went, it's so inhumane. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, what we wanted to talk to you about is, you've got your Where Shelly series, right? And
Yep.
Janis, why don't you explain, there's a lot of other people that are missing, meaning haven't been seen, people like Marc Yager and Heber Jentzch and Guillaume Leserve and
Norman Starkey.
Yeah, Norman Starkey, Marian Pouw. She's Janis, and Janis, why don't you describe what Andrew Barton and what you were thinking about on this?
Yeah, we put out some word looking for Andrew Barton, who hasn't been seen by his family for like 40 years. From his parents. His mother is now in a nursing home. They're in their late 80s. They haven't heard from him since he joined the Sea Org. His older sister, Liz Ingber, she didn't know where he was and calls the brother, and to find out he'd already routed out of the Sea Org back in 2003. And there she was years later, not even knowing he'd routed out after 7 years on the RPF. So we're now got some leads on where he might be, but it kind of explained to me, it's like, where are all these people? Why aren't they in touch with their family? Marian Pouw, I'm going to do a thing next week on her, but she hasn't communicated with her mother since the 90s, and her mother is now, next month, she'll be 92 years old.
Wow.
So there's a lot of this going on. And when I grew up in Scientology, the first course you took was the Hubbard Communications course. It was about learning how to communicate. And then the grades, you had 0 to 4. The first grade you did was communication. So to me, growing up in Scientology, the very first basic thing was to learn how to communicate.
Right.
And even Hubbard, before he passed, he did a whole program on World Out of Com, and he wanted people to learn how to communicate properly and get in communication to make it a better world. So I had an idea. I was going to call it Sea Org Out of Communication, but instead it's going to be Scientology Out of Communication or Scientology Out of Com. And so we're going to do a weekly segment now, and we're going to call out people who we know have not been in touch with their families and their friends. And maybe that will help bring them out and have them at least communicate with their aging parents or with their brothers and sisters or family. I went through a situation where people have died and they haven't even communicated with the families. And then I was going through all my dad's books and Scientology stuff, and I came across another program that Hubbard had started called Can We Ever Be Friends? And it's an appeal by a minister of the Church of Scientology to reconcile former friends and family. Now, I know there are people under the radar who watch us, fence sitters who watch us, OSA watches us. So maybe through this, we can help fix that divide and get people communicating and reconnected with their families. If they went and did squirrel group auditing 30, 40 years ago, and they haven't done it in 30 years, why are you not communicating to them? You know, these Sea Org members or these Scientologists.
Yeah, and even if they have, why do they care? Like they
exactly.
claim Scientology claims they accept people of all beliefs, all faiths, etc. We left, so why can't we talk to our families? I'm not a Scientologist.
Right, right. And how are you going to clear the planet or help this world if you don't fix your own backyard and start communicating?
Yeah.
So
Scientology needs to learn to communicate, not destroy families one by one systematically.
Right. They have to accept reality.
Yep.
You know, and reality is these are your family members, and you need to communicate with them and start from there before you can reach out and start trying to communicate and help other people.
Yep, absolutely.
Claire, have you and Mark mentioned that you guys are getting information? I mean, some of the elderly Sea Org members and all that are like being kept in hospices or wherever. What was that all about?
Yep. So we understand that at least in the case of Norman Starkey and Heber Jentzch, they are both in different hospice facilities, but they have security guards. They're not free to communicate to their families. And it's a tragedy. They are growing old in isolation. And actually, recently I learned that in California, there's some pretty strong legal language in regards to the elder abuse in the form of elder isolation. So, yeah. So it's crazy.
I know for a fact Heber's family do not know where he is, and they don't even know that he's in a home.
Right. Yep. Yeah, so we're definitely getting a lot of information through the Aftermath Foundation and doing anything and everything we can to research what are options for these family members. And we're not there yet, but we are making tremendous progress in learning what are the best steps to take, how you take them, what that then leads to. So, you know, we're finding our way, but
right.
I'll definitely be able to feed you a list of names of people who have reached out to the foundation worried and concerned about elderly Sea Org members.
Yeah, because I've tried to find Heber. You know, he's my stepfather.
Yeah.
So I've tried to find him, and, you know, I was told in an area he was in, there's over 250 homes. I start calling, and it's like, sorry, we can't give you any information.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. So I'll take a look at the information I have, maybe, since like familial relations is the strongest and best option to do anything. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. And unfortunately, in the case of a missing person report, the irony is that one of the first things that you're asked for if you go to file a missing person report is the person's address, which seems really wrong. They're missing.
They're not at that address.
What address do you want me to give? They're not there. That's the whole point.
Well, particularly like we learned with Miscavige when they're trying to serve him, you know, they have an address for him on Hollywood Boulevard, and that's not his, you know, he says, that's not my address, and you never find him.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I know. I raised that question to the LAPD in regards to Shelly. It's like, does it not strike you as odd that she has an LA address and yet her last known whereabouts is Riverside County, and it just resulted in this muddying of bouncing between agencies, between Riverside County and LAPD? Anyway, like I said, all we can do is try to demand and enforce that any agency that will listen will do anything, because we're like, we know what the policies are. We know what's happening to these people. Please listen. Please do something. This is not okay.
Yeah.
Right.
No, it's
And
true.
even for the Sea Org members themselves, it's not good that they're holding this all in or not connecting and having that relationship with their family.
That's right. Yeah. And in many cases, the member of the Sea organization becomes so isolated that even if they do have family outside, there's no hope that they would even be able to find them. Like, I know I had that, and I was, so I was 30 years old when I escaped, and I did the only family I knew were Scientologists, and I already knew my mother would promptly turn me in if I contacted her trying to escape, because she'd already done that to my uncle. And so the only hope I had was to try and get in touch with Mark, which obviously I figured out how to do that. But since then, I've managed to reconnect with many aunts and uncles that were never in Scientology. I just never had any hope when I was in that would even be possible. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, did you even know who they were?
I knew some of them vaguely from when I was super little, but I didn't have I found a letter from my grandma on my dad's side. And so I wrote to her a few months after I escaped, because I had to get the letter. Anyway, that's a whole other story. But I wrote to her, and unfortunately she had passed the prior year, but my uncle wrote back, and he was like, "Oh my gosh, it's so amazing to hear from you." And like, I hadn't seen him since I was 2 years old.
Right. Right.
So a few years ago, we went back to England and visited Manchester, which is where I was born, and this uncle arranged a whole like family reunion of like uncles I'd never met and cousins, and it was amazing. It was really a beautiful thing.
I had a similar thing when my mom had passed away just after I turned 21. And I got a letter from her cousin, who I didn't even know she existed. And she happened to be my godmother.
Wow.
And she wrote me because she'd heard her cousin had passed away, and she knew she was my godmother. So she wrote me. And so then the next year, I actually went down to Australia and visited her.
Wow.
And then she tells me all these relatives that I have that I had no clue.
That's crazy. I know. And that is the beauty of escaping from Scientology, is the reconnecting. Like, even, reconnecting with you guys. Yes, I never knew you when we were in that crazy world, but we have shared trauma, shared experiences, shared realities, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
So, those friendships and family reunions and everything else is just an amazingly powerful thing in terms of starting a new life.
Oh, absolutely.
The other thing too, that our viewers, I know, Janis, when you reached out last week about Andrew Barton, I mean, some people, are very resourceful. I mean, maybe they can find information about these people, or maybe they're, like Janis said, they're under the radar, Scientologists watching, or OSA or whatever, that they can somehow get them to reach out to their elderly family who are no longer, able to really get in touch with them anymore. And that the viewers can be tremendously helpful, in that regard as well.
Yeah. Well, anyone who is a Scientologist should realize the importance of this, because it's so basic Scientology. And by them not enforcing it on other Scientologists to communicate with their families, it's just wrong. Those Scientologists better get their ethics in and get other Scientologists and start questioning this whole point.
Yeah. And if they're being told they can't, then get the hell out of Scientology.
Exactly.
Right. It's not for you if you can't communicate with friends and family.
Yeah. If you're in an organization that's bent and set on destroying family bonds, ask yourself some really important questions.
Right. Exactly.
That's exactly right. Well, I know, Claire, you've got to go here. I just wanted to ask you. We want to thank you for coming on.
Of course.
We've been trying to get you on. I know you're really busy with Mark on, and also you got 3 teenagers, or two teenagers and a young son.
Yeah, no, I did the calculations when our first son became a teenager. I was like, 15 years until I have no more teenagers. Whew. Settle in for the ride.
Then you'll be missing them.
I know.
Friends, Janice's kids are older, but I have friends who their kids are now out of the house and they don't know what to do with themselves anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what to do with myself without Mark and my oldest son. I'm like, it's like a library around here. It's so quiet.
Do what I did. Get 2 dogs.
I already have 2 dogs and 2 cats there somewhere.
Yeah, but you don't have chickens. You got to get your chickens.
Yeah, you don't have chickens in a hole.
We're not allowed chickens because of the darn HOA.
I'm joking. Janice doesn't have them at her house either. They're at her sister's.
Oh, nice.
It was my horse.
I'm not going to forget about Henrietta the rooster for a very long time.
I'll text you photos of him.
That's awesome. I know.
But Claire, let me ask you before you go, what do you got coming up? Have you got another show coming out this week that you want to mention?
Yes, absolutely. So every Tuesday is Where's Shelly? I think the next episode coming, don't hold me to it because I haven't looked, but I'm pretty sure it's the next section of me interviewing Mark. And so it was more about our experiences with Shelly's dad, Barney, over a 2-year time period after we'd escaped from Scientology. Barney became almost like a grandpa to our oldest son. Our oldest son was like a 1.5 to 1 to 2 years old during this time. Anyway, and yeah, so that's what's coming next. And then I have I have 2 other episodes. Now actually 3 other episodes already recorded on Where's Shelly. And I'm going to keep plugging away. And and I'll be doing more Scientology stories. So just remember, everybody, subscribe and hit that bell notification for both of our channels, and you'll get lots of great content.
Yes, we do need you to subscribe to our channel. We could use more. You are way light years ahead of us, and so is Aaron. But we're happy with our progress. We want to get bigger. So if you all are watching us for the first time, please hit that subscribe button. If you haven't subscribed to Claire's channel, hit that one too. Absolutely.
Yes, blown for good.
Anyway, Claire, we want to thank you. We're going to continue with the show. We've got some slides to show people about Andrew Barton and his family, and then we're going to do question and answer. So, but we wanted to thank you for coming on and sharing.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's okay. I tell people it's self-elected, so I'm not complaining. I enjoy every moment of it, but I really appreciate you having me on. I'd love to come back whenever you want. And we'll continue this movement we've got going here.
We'll take you up on that.
Awesome.
All right. Thanks very much, Claire. We'll see you later.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Anyway, that was Claire Headley, everybody. And I know most of you know who she is. We're going to carry on with the show here now because we have slides to show regarding Andrew Barton and his family. And then we're going to do a question and answer period. The other thing we're going to do too, Janice, we're doing a giveaway, right?
Yes, we are doing a giveaway of an autographed copy of my book 1. But if you win and you already have book 1, I'll send you book 2.
There you go. So stick around. Right before we go to questions, we're going to do a giveaway in the chat. So we'll be doing that shortly. And we're going to go ahead and carry on. And Janice, I'll go ahead and start with this here. That was great having Claire here.
Yes, very good. Yes. So where is Andrew Barton?
Yeah, that's a photograph that we found, right? Or somebody had?
Yeah. Yes. It was actually from a Brian Seymour. He's a reporter in Sydney, Australia. He was with, I think, Channel 9, but he did a whole thing on trying to find Andrew back in 2016. And he did a whole news piece on it, interviewing his parents back then, and still didn't find him. We have some possible leads. I have a friend who is going to be in Perth next week who's going to help the dad go through the list and call all the different Andrew Bartons that we've gotten phone numbers for, and we'll see what we can get from that.
Fabulous.
Yeah.
Anyway, somebody asked, how do you win the book? Just stick around, and you just, when we say it, you'll just say me, and we just randomly pick somebody without looking in the chat. So that's how you can win the book. I just wanted to explain that real quick. Okay, should I go to the next slide?
Yes, please.
Okay.
All right, this is, I think it's around 1964. This is the original staff of my parents' mission in Melbourne. The top right-hand side is my mom and my dad next to her. And then some of you might remember Blake Huffam. He's in the front on the right. And then next to him to the left is Rosemary Delderfield. Some of you would have known Rosemary or Ken Delderfield. She started out as the secretary for our little mission. I used to do paperclip chains with her and staple all her papers together when she was there as the receptionist, and I would come to help her. And then in the middle there in the front is Noel Barton. When my parents went to St. Hill in 1962 to do the St. Hill Special Briefing course, Noel took over and ran the mission for them. So they've known him since 1956. When I was born, that he was already a family friend. When my parents moved to Euroa from Sydney, my dad put an ad in the paper to do Scientology lectures, and he had 8 people show up for it. And by the end of the first week, Noel was the only person left on his lecture. And he's remained a family friend ever since. So then you can go to the next picture.
Okay.
While my parents were at St. Hill on the briefing course, Noel met this lovely lady, Marian. We always called her Marian Senior or Big Marian. And Marian had already been married and had 4 young children when Noel married her. Her husband and the father of the 4 children had gotten killed in a gas station explosion. So there she was as a widow with 4 young kids, 3 girls and a boy. Noel took them on and became their father. And from the marriage with Marian, they had a joint child together, which was Andrew Barton. You can go to the next picture. So here is the picture in the front. That's little Andrew in the front there. And in the back on the left is Marian, and then William, Nettie, and then Lizzie. Now, Lizzie and Nettie, the 2 on the right, are still in the Sea Org and have been there since the early 70s. They have not been in touch with their parents since probably the 80s. William never got into Scientology. He instead stayed in England and joined the military. And then Marian, she was in the Sea Org, and then she blew in the 80s. And she had 2 kids and took them with her. We can go to the next picture.
Okay.
That's Andrew growing up. Okay, here is 1964, Glen Ferry. This was the rural school, which was 2 people in first grade, and then all the other grades up to grade 6 had 4 kids each. And so on the middle row on the right, on the end, is me. In the middle, sulking, next to me, sulking, is my sister Terry. And then next to her is Nettie.
Hey, Janis, real quick. Somebody asked in the chat, Andrew's middle name or birthday. Do you have any
No.
on that?
Noel is his middle name, and his birthday, I don't remember, it was 1964. I have it on an email, and I'll list it later on, his exact birthday.
So Noel is Noel, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Terry Ray.
And then the next photo is 1965. It's the same ruler school class. I am on the right side. I'm the second one in, and then Nettie's sitting next to me. I've got the zip down sweater there and the knee-high socks.
Such cheerful children in those days.
Yeah, but this is the kind of show.
I told you, don't smile.
Yeah, This is to show, how long I've known the Bartons.
Yeah.
From 1962 when we were all little kids. Okay. And then this was probably 1966, just before we left to England. In the back is myself next to my brother. And then from the left to right, Liz Ingber on the left, Marian, or Little Marian, or Maz, as we called her. And then our dog Cuddles. And then my sister Terry, and then on the right side is Nettie, or Jeanette Barton, Jeanette Alcock, Nettie Alcock. And then this was in England. My brother and their older brother, William, joined the Army Cadets. My brother is the second one in, and the third one in is their brother, William. Okay. And then this is, my mom was the minister when Liz and Marc Yager got married. Lizzie, of course, is in the middle, my mom on the right, and Marc Yager on the left.
Tell everybody who Marc Yager and Liz that don't know, because we know them very well from our time in the Sea Organization.
Excellent point. Marc Yager joined the Sea Org in probably 69 on the Royal Scotsman. And he was in management. And later on, he married Lizzie. Lizzie came, and she was on the ship as well, actually. I'm not sure what point they got married, but they took a leave and got married. And then they both joined the CMO, so they were both Commodore's messengers. Mark was my boss when I was the chief officer of CMO Int. He was the commanding officer. He's actually, before I've mentioned I had a boss that I didn't like, and that was Mark.
Right.
And then Lizzie, I grew up with her. When our parents went out, she was the babysitter of all of us. We figured she was the witch having to control us. But, we grow out of that as we get older. And but they are both actually still in the Sea Org. I don't know what they're doing right now. I know Liz had some medical problems. Back in 1988, she had cancer, but she was still alive, as far as I know, a couple of years ago.
Yeah, and then also, my experience, Mark, first time I ever saw Marc Yager, I think Lizzie was there too. He was running the PAC move into the Cedars complex. It was MOPM, which was a mission operation PAC move or whatever. And basically they ran getting, what is Big Blue in LA. It wasn't Blue at the time, it was a hospital, and getting it renovated and getting everybody moved in, all the organizations moved into there. And then later, Marc Yager was in charge of the finance police when the takeover was done of the mission holders and got rid of closing the missions. It was him and Wendell Reynolds, and then they had Don Larson as their enforcer. And
right.
Then after that, Marc Yager was the watchdog committee member over Sea Org reserves, which was the bank accounts, the big money. So he was involved with quite a bit of stuff, and he was on Miscavige's lines quite a bit, and eventually was, the commanding officer CMO and WDC chairman, yada, yada, yada. Anyway.
Right. And I have no idea what they're doing now, but I do know they are in the Sea Org, and Liz has not been communicating with her parents.
Right.
And then here in the back, you can see Nettie is holding a baby. She'd already had Sean Alcock, so that must have been Michelle, who was later, everyone just called her Mishi. And Nettie was on the ship when she married John Alcock. She was actually in the engine room as an engineer. And then later on, when we moved to Clearwater, she became a messenger and got into the Commodore's messenger org. And then she was out in CMO PAC for a while and Clearwater. And then she is actually the one who I'd heard was the person who was assisting Heber and taking care of Heber until he was moved into a home.
Right, that's the person. Nettie was the one when the police or somebody, right, didn't one of Heber's family request somebody check on Heber, a
Yes,
welfare
one of his
check, and
nieces did.
Nettie was supposedly his nurse, right? That's what.
Right, but she has no nurse training whatsoever.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Who's that?
Oh, that's me with Sean Alcock.
That was Nettie and John Alcock's son.
Yeah, that's Nettie's son. This was probably in 1977 or early. Yeah, it would be 1977. Yeah.
Okay. And Sean, he's apparently, you said he's a cameraman at Gold, right?
Yeah, and I actually forgot to ask Mitch about him, but yeah, he's the cameraman at Gold, and his sister Mishi apparently is his assistant, and they too have never met their grandparents, and they even have cousins here, 6 cousins here in Las Vegas that they have no communication with.
Right.
You know, so they've grown up inside this bubble and don't even know their family outside.
Right.
And then this is my sister with Sean again, and John Alcock, the dad of Sean and Mishi, and there was a third child, I think it was Kim.
That's your sister Terry, and that's at the Fort Harrison, right? Outside the cabanas in the Fort Harrison.
Yeah, that's out by the cabanas at the Fort Harrison lawn.
There was a baby boom after you guys came off the ship, right?
Big baby boom. Yeah. Yeah. You know, there's a picture missing from Maz and Carl.
I never got that picture.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so this is Noel and Marian taken. I think Brian Seymour took this one during the interview he did with them back in 2016, where the whole idea was to find Andrew and try and get the girls back in communication with them. That didn't work.
And she's the one now that's in the nursing home. Is that right?
Yeah, she's in the nursing home. She's been there a few months. Noel visits her every day, you know, for 5 hours a day, and she's always asking for Andrew.
That's really sad.
Yeah.
Mitch Brisker's in the house. He says, Sean is not a cameraman. He's the shoot crew chief. Michelle is an assistant camera person.
Okay, good. Thank you, Mitch.
Yeah. Anyway, that's really sad. So, yeah.
And there's Maz. That's the middle one. Maz was married to Carl Witcher.
Mm-hmm.
Carl Witcher was in the engine room on the ship. And they had a couple of daughters together when they were in Clearwater. And then Maz blew, and she actually ended up in Las Vegas and blew here with her 2 daughters. And many years later, I heard Carl was sent to the RPF in Australia. Here he is. He's an American. And Miscavige was so mad at him over something. He sent him to the RPF in Australia, maybe 15 years ago or something, and he's still down there in Australia. I believe he does communicate with his daughters, but he doesn't see them. And the daughters, you know, they have 4 other siblings now that are here in Vegas. And when Marian passed away in 2016, I believe it was, you know, Maz had no communication from her sisters, Liz or Nettie. We got a message to them that Maz was dying and in hospital, and would they please give her a call? No phone call came through. Instead, you know, she died with my sister and I there with her and her kids. And we also, you know, were in touch with her parents, so they knew what was going on. And we did a memorial service for her at one of our properties, and we FaceTimed the parents, Noel and Marian, so they could see their grandkids and be a part of the whole ceremony to say goodbye to Maz. But
go ahead.
Yeah, you were there. But
I was there at the memorial service, and I just want to give Janis credit. She is a true friend. Okay. She took care of Maz. She's known her since she was a little girl, and her sisters had nothing to do with her. And it's so disgusting. Okay. And I just want to thank Janis and Terry, because they stood with Marian when she was sick with cancer and dying, and then they provided their family with a place for a life remembrance, and it just goes to show you that's what a true friend is. That's not what these Scientologists are that are in the Sea Organization. They could care less about their family, and it's so sad. I just wanted to say that because Janis and Terry really stepped up and did a beautiful service, and they were there for Marian's family.
No, thank you, Mark. Yeah. Anyway, this is why means a lot to me on trying to get families reconnected, because I've gone through this with the Bartons. I know all of them. I went through it with my own dad, and I will cover that in another time. But yeah, family is important. Okay, we can go to the next one.
Okay.
And here, for my dad's 90th birthday, my sister and I took him to Australia so he could visit with old friends. And this is a picture. We went to Perth specifically to see Noel and Marian. So from left to right is myself in the pink shirt, Noel next to me, Marian, my sister, and my dad. And it meant the world to Noel and Marian that we went down there to see them specifically in Perth and just spend some time with them.
Okay.
And it meant a lot to my dad too at 90 years old to see them. It was fun seeing them all together and having some good laughs.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the last one.
Yeah.
So do you have any message out there for, people still help you find Andrew? Somebody put his birthday, March 19th, 1964.
Yes, that's March 19th, yes. And he was born in Kew down in Melbourne, KEW, in 1964, yes. So anyone who can help us find him, that would be really, really appreciated. I don't know if I mentioned this. We found he'd been in the RPF for 7 years, and then he finally routed out in 2003, and nobody knows where he went after that. He was an Australian citizen. He'd grown up as a teenager in England, then he'd gone to the Free Winds and then Clearwater. So anyone that can help us try and find him, that would be appreciated. And anyone who has a connection into Sea Org members, get a message to Liz and Nettie to get off their butts and call their parents, no matter what their problem is. Think about their parents. They're aging, and once they die, there's nothing they can say to them.
Right.
They're the ones who are going to be left with the guilty conscience.
That's right. Anyway, we're going to be doing more of these, right, Janis? We've got other people that are missing that we're going to do.
Yes. We have other people who, and if you know other people, please tell me and give me some information so that I can call them out, because I'm fed up with it, and I'm giving them I'm letting Scientology know they don't have to defend anything. Come out and just let the people see their families and communicate.
Yeah.
Give them time. Send a postcard. I don't care what you do. Make a phone call, but get in communication, because that is the basics of what Scientology was all about in the first place. Communication course and grade 0. Get it in if you're a Scientologist. Follow what you believe.
Exactly. All right. Anyway, on that note, we're going to do a giveaway now. It's time for our book giveaway, everybody. So the way this works is, and then we're going to go to questions and answers. So if you want to put a question in the, make sure you write question on it, and we're going to answer everybody's questions. You want to super chat us, super sticker us. We appreciate any donations. But anyway, before we do that, go ahead and get in the chat, okay? And just say book me or whatever. And, I'll do a countdown. And Janis, how will they, while people are getting in the chat, I just want to let them know they should get a hold of you if they win at your email address, right?
Yes, just let me know. Yeah, if you're the winner, send me an email at janisgillamgrady@gmail.com. Send me your name and address, and I will get it mailed off to you Monday morning.
Also, they can ask for a personalized autograph too, right?
Yes, they can. If you want me to say something to you in there, I will do that. Or if you just want my signature, you can get my signature.
Okay, everybody, go ahead and get in this chat here. I'm going to go ahead. There's a lot of people in here right now. So go ahead and I'm going to count down from 5. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to go 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ryan Maharaj, you have won the autograph book from Janis. Congratulations, Ryan. So what you want to do is you want to email Janis at janisgillamgrady@gmail.com with your address and contact information. If you want a personalized autograph, just write in what you want her to autograph in the book and she'll get it sent out to you. And we want to thank everybody for participating in the chat giveaway. And, we'll be doing more of these on our shows as well. So thanks very much. Okay. Congratulations, Ryan. All right, next thing we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and start questions, Janis. I know we've got a bunch of them start already. So I'm going to go ahead and start at the beginning, okay?
Yep.
So first of all, Cheryl, Luz7 and LV, hello from down the street. Hi, Cheryl. It's
Hi, Cheryl.
This
Great
is one of our
lunch
viewers that lives here in Las Vegas nearby us, and we appreciate your support. Thanks very much, Cheryl.
Cheryl and I had lunch yesterday.
Yes, you did. Okay, and then we had a comment here from Love Food Kitchen. I keep saying Blown for Good and Peeling the Onion are the two channels that are killing it in the Scientology YouTube world by offering something different to the others. So I'm looking forward to this so much. Thank you, Love Food Kitchen. Anybody, if you haven't subscribed to our channel, please do so. I know it's like a broken record, but we get about 35% of the people that watch have never watched before. So just hit that subscribe button and you'll get lots of great content. Mitch asked again, what came first, chicken or the eggs? I already asked that. Thank you, Mitch. Aaron in the house, Ron. I'm loving all your videos and interviews. Well, thanks very much, Aaron. You are an inspiration to us with what you do on your channel and the amount of people that you reach, and we really appreciate that support. And thank you for the super chat, Aaron. Next one here, Danielle Chamberlain. Question: isn't it illegal to record the PCs for privacy reasons? Janis?
I would think so, especially in California. They have specific rules on that.
Yeah, I don't know the legal aspects of it. And, knowing Scientology and their attorneys, I'll bet you in some of those stupid agreements that they make people sign before they go auditing, it probably has somewhere in there where they're giving their consent. So anyway.
But Danielle is the wife of Neville, who we did the interview with, that's coming out on Tuesday.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, thank you so much, Danielle. And like we said, we've got that new video that's going to come out on Tuesday. So we appreciate the question. We've got Mitch Brisker. He's in the house, and he said, I directed Larry Anderson and later Jeff Pomerantz reading that issue. I thought it was empty propaganda. You guys are the leaders in healing families, full stop. He's talking about Can We Ever Be Friends?
Right.
Thanks very much, Mitch. Yeah, no, it's we're trying to help. I mean, we're following the lead of Claire and Leah Remini and Mike Rinder and all the people that started up the Where is Shelly. And Where is Shelly is important, but we also feel it's important. There's a lot of other people that are missing that we want to draw attention to as well. Thanks, Mitch. We've got a super sticker, Lou Ray St. Louis. Thank you so much for the super sticker. Next one, we've got a super chat from Denver Stevo. Thanks, Denver Stevo. After watching several videos of Heber from years ago, I feel so much for him and his family. Knowing family who suffered dementia/Alzheimer's in their later years, family presence is invaluable. Osa smells like Pouw. Love you all. That's so true, Denver Stevo. And we want to thank you for your support. And I totally agree with you on the families need to support the elderly. And a lot of these Sea Org members that are having problems, they need to get them reconnected to their families. Okay. Next question here is from Troy Snuffles. Question: can't Janis file a police missing persons report for Heber Jentzch?
You know, I have another angle I'm trying to work right now, because I'm a stepdaughter, and when I left, he didn't want anything to do with me. But I'm trying to work another angle. But maybe I can. I'll have to check that out.
Okay. Thanks very much, Troy Snuffles.
Let me make a correction on what I just said. I don't know that Heber said he didn't want anything to do with me. I was told that.
Right. He wouldn't have told you that.
No, he would never.
He wouldn't have said that.
We were best of friends.
Yeah. He was friends with just about everybody.
Yes.
He would not have done that. Okay. The next question here, Jen. Thank you so much for the super chat, Jen. Have you heard from anyone that may have been a child given up for adoption in Scientology because the parents wanted a different life for them? Thanks for your time. Love all three of you. I've never heard of anybody putting up their kid for adoption. Have you, Janice?
No, I haven't. They were more for have the mother go and get an abortion. That was their whole angle.
Yeah, and it's a shame, but that hasn't happened, and then they outlawed children in the Sea Organization, so basically you could not have them, and right. That's basically what happened with that. So thank you so much for that super chat. Danielle Chamberlain is back again, and she says, question, what's an HOA? Read the chickens. Danielle lives in England, so go ahead and Janice explain.
An HOA is a homeowners association. They basically set and enforce the rules within different communities that they control. Some are like Nazis and some of them are pretty good. It really depends on who's been elected to the board. And the board is usually homeowners themselves who are the president, secretary, treasurer. And if you have a basketball court, a basketball net in front of your house or a car parked in front of your house, and the regulations say you can't, they will send you notification that you're violating the rules. And then if you don't fix it, they'll start fining you $100 a month until you fix it.
Yeah. And they could, crazy things like you can't pay. Well, not crazy. They don't want you to paint your house purple when all the other houses look something else. So there's a reason for them as well. Okay, Danielle, thank you so much. Next, we got another super chat. Cassie Isaac. Hi, Cassie. How you doing? Hey, guys, love all three of you. Well, we love all of the people that are watching and our loyal viewers here, Cassie. Thank you so much for that super chat and the support. We've got a question here from Anon A. Question, do they film and listen in to regular auditing or just sec checks? How long has that been going on?
Well, when I was there, it was not done. There was no filming. The only times I knew sessions were recorded was on the ship. Hubbard had everyone with a little cassette player, and they would go in and do a session. Not every session was recorded, but they'd go in and do a session, and they'd have to submit the tape to Hubbard, who would listen to it to see how they were doing in the session. And it was all about the auditor. It wasn't about the PC and his withholds and all that kind of stuff. It was just, and he wouldn't even listen to the whole thing. He pretty much just listened to the start of the session to get the idea of how the auditor was doing.
Yeah, and that was part of the pro training routines or communications course for auditors, where they were taping just to listen to the auditor deliver commands and how they were handling the session. They weren't listening to the person who was getting the counseling as to what they were saying. It just was, they were trying to perfect the people in terms of how they communicated to the person they were counseling. And that was it. And then afterwards, with Miscavige, I guess, because I don't remember this even being in when we left, they decided, well, we have the technology, because they literally, Mark Headley can tell the story, I think he has in his book. They basically put recording devices and cameras in every auditing room at the Flag Land Base and in all these new ideal orgs and all that, where they were not only recording the auditor, they were recording the person getting the counseling. And that's like, and they put them in hidden cameras so they couldn't even see it, right? And that's such a violation. Could you imagine a Catholic priest going into a confessional booth and they're videotaping and recording for anybody who's Catholic? I mean, that would be ridiculous. I mean, the fact of the matter is you're confessing or you're getting off whatever it is that you're upset or you're ashamed of, and it should never be used against you. Okay, but Scientology has a practice of using it against you. Now, when you're getting security checked, they tell you that we're not processing you because they're looking for ethics violations. And so knowledge reports would be written up about whatever it is that you said, and those could be actionable by the ethics division. But again, and even in my opinion, that was not a humane thing to do, because people get, they basically confess to things because they want to feel better. They don't confess because they want to get in trouble. So anyway, I hope I answered your question. Next question. Thanks, Anane. Diana, aka Duchess of Chug. Mark, next time you're in Boston, hope you'll have an SP Never Ends get together, maybe at the beach, and everybody can wear Hawaiian shirts. I would love to. I've never been to Boston. That's one city on the East Coast I've never been to. So
I did the Freedom Walk in Boston. Paul and I did that in 2021. Just before he passed away, we went there and we did the Walk of Freedom, going to all the different spots around Boston.
And I actually was born in Newport, Rhode Island. That's where my life began on this planet, was Newport, Rhode Island. But my dad was in the Navy, and my mom had me at the Navy hospital. And then he got shipped out 2 weeks later, and we moved to California. So I literally was a resident of Rhode Island for 2 weeks. And I've never been back. I'd love to go back. I heard it's beautiful up there. Anyway, thanks very much, Dana, for that question. We've got another super chat. Hey, Jackson in the house. Gary Jackson Moorhead. Lizzie Ingber, I considered very close, and is someone I actually called 911 on to get her help when she was very, very ill. Thanks, Jackson, for that. We appreciate it. I liked Liz too. I mean, Liz can be tough, but you're expected to be tough sometimes when you're in the Sea organization. But Liz, I always liked her. She was a fun person. How about you, Jan?
Despite my not liking her when she was a babysitter, I loved Liz.
And Nettie, I had interaction with Nettie when I was in Clearwater. I was the L. Ron Hubbard communicator for the Estates organization, and she was in the Commodore's Messenger org in Clearwater. And when you said that she was in the engine room on the ship, I believe you, because she knew everything about the boiler room in the Fort Harrison, and she dove right into that stuff. And she actually was very tough, but she was very, very nice person. And John Alcock, I remember I worked with him quite a bit. He was a great guy as well. So, Nettie, you need to reach out to your family. And same with Liz. Yep. Thanks, Jackson.
Well, and even Sean and Mishi need to reach out and say hello to their grandparents.
Absolutely. Okay, question from Cannonball. Is it true Scientology separates Italy out from the rest of its European operations? If so, why? When we were in, Janice, they had a CLO in Italy that they had the way that Scientology manages, when we were in, was by continents. Okay, so like they had a management unit in Copenhagen, which was in charge of Europe. Okay, right. And they had one in the East U.S. for the Eastern United States, West U.S. They had one in Australia. They had one in Africa, and different places. But what they did was, I remember that when Italy was taking off in the late 70s and early 80s, they opened up a lot of organizations in Italy, and they opened up their own little management unit. It was called a CLO, or Continental Liaison Office, but they were under the management office in Europe. So I don't know how it is now, but that's how it was then. Okay. Next question from Anane. Did Maz leave Scientology or just the Sea Org?
Originally she left the Sea Org, and then she married a guy who worked at the Las Vegas org, and he was still a Scientologist, because when he found out Maz was in touch with me when I was here in Vegas, he actually, without Maz knowing, he came into our mortgage company wanting to see me to try and get me to do my A to E, so he wouldn't feel guilty about Maz talking with me. Now, A to E is steps that when you're declared a suppressive person, if you want to get back in good standing with Scientology, there is a number of steps of A to E that you have to do to get back in good standing. So Maz's husband was trying to convince me, or he thought he could come in and do an ethics handling on me and get me to see my wrong and be okay with everything just so I could talk to Maz. Well, Maz and I didn't care what he had to say, and we just stayed in touch anyway.
That's great. Thanks very much, Anane. Next question is from Cannonball. Question: do any places push back on Scientologists performing legal marriage ceremonies? Do any force Scientology to conduct civil unions? Is Scientology the only cult allowed to perform weddings? Well, since it was, a religion, I mean, basically, you had to do the minister's course if you were a processor or auditor. And most executives in Scientology, you had to do the minister's course, and then you would get ordained as a Scientology minister. I performed two, I think maybe three weddings in my time in Scientology and the Sea organization. But yeah, they were considered legal. Now, one of the weddings I did was in Hawaii, and in Hawaii they had different laws, and I was able to do the ceremony, but they also had a Hawaiian minister there who legally could, pronounce them man and wife. So I think it's different in different locales.
Yeah, I know. At the base, a lot of the staff wanting to get married, normally you went to Riverside and got the blood test and filed for it. Heber was my minister, so he signed it. But others I know, many went to Vegas to get the legal wedding and then would do a ceremony for everybody at the base.
Okay. Thanks very much for that question. Next question here is from Shabros. Question: great work, Mark and Janis. Can you talk a little about Norman Starkey? Go ahead, Janis.
On his current condition, I don't know. Claire's got more information on that. But he actually came from South Africa. His brother, Owen Starkey, I've heard was offloaded from the Sea Organ is back in South Africa. And I heard he was homeless. I don't know how true that rumor is. But
can you talk a little bit about how long you've known Norman and that type
of I've known Norman. I've known Norman since he came on the ship in 1968. I remember him and his girlfriend, who became his wife, Maria Starkey, coming on board. And Norman always called Maria Lovey. So we actually would call her Lovey instead of Maria. But Norman became he was a deckhand, and he worked his way up and got himself trained and certified as a ship's captain.
Yeah.
So he became the captain of the Apollo. And then when we moved ashore, he went on leave to South Africa, and then he came back and joined us in La Quinta and remained with us all the way through to, well, us. I'm talking about back then when it was us. I was part of that. But Norman, became the trustee for LRH's estate. And I left in 1990, and I don't know really what's happened to him since, except for what Claire mentioned today.
Yeah, and he worked with Miscavige first. He was a missionaire in the early 80s, him and Captain Bill. And then when they were doing the sort out of the Guardian's office, he was involved in the missions with that, getting rid of the Guardian's office and setting up OSA and the corporations. And he ended up in Author Services, and he basically worked with Miscavige closely. And then when Hubbard died, like she mentioned, he was the executor of L. Ron Hubbard's estate, which really meant that Miscavige could control Norman. You know what I mean? That was Miscavige was in control, not Norman. But he was that. And then I heard afterwards, I mean, Norman was the subject of a lot of abuse by Miscavige. And I know I saw people mentioning different things that have come up on other channels of different abusive things that Miscavige did to him, along with other Scientology executives.
Very abusive. And the thing is, as the trustee, DM should have had no power over Norman at all.
Right. Yeah. Okay, thanks for that question. Next one here is Weary Traveler. Question: what were the other leaders like as people? Heber, Guillaume, Wilher, Yager, etc. Go ahead, Janis.
You know, I knew all of them.
Me
You know,
too.
well, as you know, Heber was my stepfather. I met him when I was 17. We had a good relationship. He was a caring person. He came from a family, a Mormon family, fundamentalist actually, because his father had a total of 8 wives, only 6 at one given time, and 42 kids. So Heber had 41 brothers and sisters. And so he worked hard, paid his way through college, became an actor and a singer. He was part of a group called Thank You World. He was in Paint Your Wagon, but you won't find him in there. Though he would get residual checks, he went on the cutting room floor. And then he was in another movie, 1776. And then Guillaume was half French and half Italian. Wonderful man.
Yep.
Very wonderful.
Very confident.
Very confident. Worked well with his staff. I did a mission once into the exec strata and worked very closely with him. Very determined person, but caring. And yeah, just a wonderful man all around. And then Greg Wilhare, I knew Greg from the early days on the ship. He married my miner's mate, Sandy Wilhare, Sandy Stevens. So I used to consider Darius as my little brother. And Greg was the Commodore steward for a while. He was an auditor. He was the keeper of tech in Washington Org. And then he returned. He was the captain of the Flag Service Org at one point. And he then, just kept working his way up and became the IG. But he, again, was a great person. And as these people worked with Miscavige, their whole personality changes to where they're endorsing him and helping Miscavige with his criminal activity of doing things that is not supposed to be a part of what Scientology was supposed to be. Right. I mean, this is just evil shit going down that they're supporting.
Yeah.
And then Marc Yager, I know Mark since he was 14 years old on the ship. And he was probably one of the best bosses I had ever had. I really got along well with him, worked well with him. And later on, I heard of the various abuse to him. But, people come into Scientology from the viewpoint of trying to help and improve themselves and other people, their families. And as they get closer to Miscavige, and even with Hubbard, they become more brutal. And they do things that was not in their personality in the first place, but they end up doing it.
I'm going to say that this is my opinion for any Scientologists that are listening or OSA people, that if Guillaume and Marc Yager had been left in control of Scientology and Miscavige was not in the picture at all, Scientology would be in an entirely different position right now. It wouldn't be as ridiculed. It'd be a lot bigger and there'd be a lot more people in it. They would be helping people, not trying to destroy them. And I'm saying that as, a former Scientologist. I'm not a Scientologist anymore, but I truly believe that the goodness in those people and their smarts, Scientology would have been a lot better off if they wanted to expand.
Yeah, I know that if Yager was still my boss, I'd probably still be there. I'm glad I left. I'm glad I'm not there, but if he was still my boss, I probably would have still be there, and it would be a total different scene.
Okay, thanks for the question. We're a traveler. Next question, an on-air question. Why did Nettie and her sister in the Sea Org disconnect from the parents?
I believe back in the 80s when David Mayo set up his group, and there was some groups down in Australia, they connected up with those old timers in Australia who were all their old friends from St. Hill. And these were the people who were trying to still do Scientology, but not part of Miscavige's church. And I believe that's why the girls originally disconnected from them, because they were part of a squirrel group. But, that they stopped doing that in the late 80s. and through the 90s and the 2000s, they haven't done any of that. So it's like, well, why are you still disconnected from them? You know?
Okay. All right. Next question. Wrestler Messler, question, how old is that photo of Andrew?
Probably about 40 years old. You know, the parents have no updates on him since the 90s, I guess it was.
40? No, it'd be more like 30 years. Because he looks like he did when we left.
Okay, that was 30. I left 33 years ago.
Right.
And that picture is older than that.
Yeah. Okay. And then somebody said, is that the latest photo that we have of him?
Yes.
Most recent. Yeah. Okay, cool. Next question is, Cannonball, where is the RPF in Australia? Are there special RPF prison camps still?
I don't know if there's still an RPF or anything like that. I don't have that recent information, but the RPF in Australia was in Sydney, where the Scientology had their various different organizations.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that. We got a super chat from Wiggly Woo. Thank you so much, Wiggly Woo. Thank you for bringing these years to life and introducing us to all these folks. It really helps to understand how this all happened, and this newest project is beautiful and profound. Kudos. Well, thank you very much, Wiggly Woo. We appreciate your support, and we're trying to do our best. You know, we try every day, and we're getting a lot of enjoyment out of it, and we hope we're helping people. Next question, Degraded Daughters of Dianetics. Love Food Kitchen. Absolutely. This is so important. There are so many ripple effects from Scientology that tears apart families. Thank you very much for that comment.
So true.
Next question, another super chat from Alicia Medley. One thing I don't hear much about is the rumor that cult members can't make noise when giving birth. Where did that come from?
That is Dianetics.
Yeah.
That's the forerunner to Scientology. And the idea is that a mother screaming while giving birth or people talking gets ingrained into the baby's brain as a memory. And that's why they do silent births. Right,
because what would happen, or what Hubbard said in Dianetics, is that when you were processing that person, a lot of their reactive mind and things that happened to them, pain and unconsciousness, a lot of it came from in the womb and from while they were being born. So that's why they do the silent birth thing, because they don't want anything being recorded that would negatively affect that person. Thank you for that question. We got a question here from Martin Ottman. Hi, Martin. Question, are the whereabouts of Lyman Spurlock known, or is he also among the missing executives?
No, sadly, Lyman passed away many years ago.
Yeah.
And again, that was another situation where his family was not informed, but he passed away, disconnected from his family. His sister had been looking for him, trying to communicate with him. Another bad effect.
Exactly. Okay, thank you for that. Next question is Diana, aka Duchess of Chug. I love SPTV because it's full of love. Thank you. Well, we appreciate you too, and we think the people that watch this, you guys are all full of love too, and we appreciate that. Thank you for that. We got a super sticker from Cece. Thank you very much, Cece. And I've got another question here from Martin Ottman. Question, whatever happened to Homer Schomer and his lawsuit that he filed against Hubbard and Miscavige in '84? Was it settled?
Yes, it was settled. And again, now you bring up Homer Schomer. His daughter is still inside as a Sea Org member, and she does not communicate with Homer. I try and get any word I can on her from various people who leave so that Homer can be kept updated on her. But she and her daughter do not communicate with him. I don't even know if he's ever met the granddaughter.
And Homer's a good friend of ours. I mean, Janice, we're in touch with him, and he's a great guy, and he's still alive and kicking and doing well.
He's a good man.
Yeah. Thanks, Martin. Next question is from Goat Lady. Question, can you get your property back after leaving the Sea Org? I am thinking about sentimental things like photos you showed today.
All right. When I left and they took all my photos, I was told when I got back in good standing, I could get them back. Now, from what Jackson has told me, my photos were left out in boxes in the rain and got destroyed. So even if I got in good standing, I'd never get them back because they got destroyed.
Yeah, they just don't care about things like that, and they're not going to give them back to you. And I know Mark and Claire, the same thing. They said, "Oh yeah, we'll give you the stuff back and all that," and you know,
to them it's unnecessary junk. You don't need it.
Exactly. All right, thanks, Goat Lady. We got a super chat from Goldie. Hi, Goldie. Maybe we could call ourselves Janny and the Mofos.
I like Koala Calm. But I wasn't.
For anybody watching for the first time, the reason she says Mofos is because I recently found out that my code name at OSA, with all the dirty tricks and stuff they've done to me over the years, that they call me Mofo. That's how they refer to me in the dispatches. We got a bunch of spy files from Mark Headley from 2006, and they refer to Mofo did this, Mofo did that, and they're talking about me. So I wear the badge proudly. I'm a bad Mofo. Thanks, Goldie. We appreciate all the stuff that you do for us. We appreciate it. Okay, we got a question here. Nope, I did that one.
We just did that one.
Yep, here we go. Martin Ottman for Janis. Do you know the Buchanan family? Tristan Buchanan, a second-generation Scientologist, held a supercargo position at the Flag Service Org in the early 90s. And if you know them, are they still in?
I don't know them. I left in 1990, so he must have been after my time. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. This is the next question is from Danielle Chamberlain again. Question to get attention. Neville says they recorded power processing in 1965-66.
Yeah, so that would have been at St. Hill. Again, that would have been for training purposes of the auditors.
Yeah, that's Neville Chamberlain, Danielle's his wife. Yeah. Okay, thanks very much, Danielle. And we're getting close to the end here. Next one here is from COBLIF. Question, do Scientology Sea Org members sometimes have members marry, divorce, change names in any particular jurisdiction? Is there a particular publication used to publish the legal notice for name changes? No.
No, there used to be, the Auditor it was a magazine called The Auditor, and that used to that would come out monthly, and that would have news in it. It would say who got married, who had a baby. It had all that kind of stuff in it from the advanced organization and the St. Hills in LA and England. And yeah, that was kind of like the announcement paper.
Yeah. Okay, thanks for that question. We're coming down here to the end on these. Roxy, I wonder if Owen's wife, Dorothy, stayed in the U.S. when he was offloaded to South Africa. Face red-eyed, droopy eyes.
Yeah, I don't know. When I knew him, his wife was Nan, and she passed away. So this was a wife after that, but I have no information.
Yeah.
Maybe somebody else out there does and can put it in the comments section.
Okay. And then next question from Cannonball. Question, is anyone living at the La Quinta property today?
The La Quinta property was sold to the La Quinta Hotel. Well, this was several properties. We had several. Rifle is where Hubbard lived. That was repurchased by Scientology and is owned by Scientology today as one of the homes L. Ron Hubbard had lived in. The other properties, which we call Palms, Olives, the ranches and the stables and the date packing plant, all that got sold to the La Quinta Hotel and is now all part of that
resort.
Operation.
Yeah,
the resort.
And we've been there. You've been there recently. I've been there before too.
Yeah, Paul and I went there in 2018, and I took a whole bunch of photographs for my third book.
That's right. Thanks, Cannonball. Okay, we got a couple more here, and then we're done here. James Walsh, Yager, another guy who shows up in the famous airport ambush video. That's correct.
Yes.
They're ambushing Marty Rappin with David Bloomberg and Jenny Linson and Marc Yager. Yeah.
Yes, and I'll tell you, that is a Marc Yager that is not the same Marc. It's the same Marc Yager, but not the same Marc Yager.
But he's the same Marc Yager, though, that was abused by Miscavige to the point where he had somebody run him down with a car and he broke his leg. He had him live in the swamp and make his, for over a year apparently, and have him make his own place to live in the swamp. I mean, he just is such a sadistic, Miscavige is such a sadistic, evil person. The fact that he thinks these things up and thinks that these are cool punishments just shows you how sadistic he is.
Correct.
Thanks. All right. And then we've got another super chat here from Cannonball. Hashtag find the missing. Go Janis and Mark, ready to help. Well, thanks very much, Cannonball. We thank you for that. All right, that's our last question, everybody. We want to thank everybody for sticking around. You've been very helpful to us, and hopefully you'll be more helpful in finding this. We're going to be bringing up other people, and like Janis said, and we're going to be continuing the rest of our series as well. But again, we want to ask you all to please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. And if you have any other questions that we didn't get to, please ask in the comments section. We read the comments and we answer them. So if you have anything or any comments, please place them there. And go ahead, Janis.
And if you're under the radar, please help us reconnect the families. Let's get Scientology out of communication.
You mean you want to get them back in communication?
I want to get them back in, we want to get them back in communication with their families.
Yeah. Okay, everybody, thanks very much for watching. We'll see you the next time. Take care. Bye.
Bye.